You couldn't have gone more to rock bottom. In fact, I think I started lower than what I was when I started originally, you know. So, and you go through this stage, I've had a family, I've bought a home, like all these things you never thought you could do, and then all of a sudden, you're literally in a bed sit. And, you know, I remember like I was genuinely living on around £10 to £15 a week.
Welcome to Your Mind, Your Business, the podcast that dives into the real grit of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Carina McLeod, CEO and founder of eCommerce Nurse, an e-commerce growth agency. And today we have a special guest, Danny Hall from FSE Digital. Welcome, Danny.
Hi, Carina. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And I'm looking forward to talking to you today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. Very, very honoured.
So I'm guessing the audience is sitting here thinking, who is Danny Hall?
Yep.
And I'm thinking, who is Danny Hall from like years ago? I'm interested to hear more. Okay. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself from where you are at now, and then I'm going to hit rewind.
Okay. It's an interesting one. Sometimes I wake up and wonder who I am myself. So it's, I mean, I'm Danny Hall. I'm the founder and the owner of FSE Digital. We're a full-service digital marketing agency based in Essex, servicing the whole of the UK. I've got a few other interests, a few other small businesses, and we've got family estate agents or more property management. And, you know, as a result, I got a little bit in the property, a few properties and things like that. So, yeah, just really a normal guy, I like to think. No master plan, just, sort of running a digital marketing agency and working my way out as I go, I suppose. So, yeah, that's pretty much me.
So you say no master plan. That's always an interesting one, because I think a lot of people think, all right, you've got a successful business, you are where you're at, you obviously had a plan, but I'm guessing that wasn't the case. So should we go to the start of your journey?
Are we going to go right to the start?
Let's go right back, like to the part probably that's most significant to you starting up and doing your own thing.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you do know how old I am, so this could be quite a way back, right? So, in all honesty, it's strange. I mean, really taking it right back, I thought about this a lot in the recent years. And I think it kind of goes back to when I was quite young. Like a lot of my family, I worked from a very young age. I'm actually from around this area. So I'm actually from Bethnal Green originally. And you couldn't be more East End. My nan owned a pub. She wasn't quite Peggy Mitchell, but she wasn't far off. I used to bottle up on a weekend from the age of about 11. Then my uncle actually owned a pie and mash shop. So we are, you know, so East End, it's unbelievable. And I worked in there from the age of 12 to 18. And then my dad was always in reproduction furniture. And I went and worked with him as a French polisher at the age of 18. And one of those things that I realised was they was all family members or people that was close to me. They all owned their own business. So I thought it was so amazing. And that I didn't realise how much that stuck with me, because although I always worked, I sort of never gone and got a job and gone into that environment of working for someone that wasn't family. It's actually easier to work for someone than work for family, especially my dad. I'll say that much.
Gonna say, yeah.
But yeah, it was. I learned a lot through that. So then, kind of fast forward for that. I've done the whole thing where I felt like you've got to break away from the family. So I went and got a job. Much to the dismay of my dad. It took us a few years to get over that. And like I say, I had no plan. Like I wasn't like, I'm not particularly academic. They said I was bright at school. I could, the usual thing. Could try harder, could do better. But yeah, I just liked people. I always enjoyed being with people, and I liked the social aspect of just working like pie and mash shops. It was obviously like customers coming in, and the cheeky chappy side of it, the French polishers with me dad. It was a big crew of guys. Like, I was a young guy, so it was exciting working with older people. But yeah, then like I say, I just decided I'd have to sort of grow up. And what I actually realised, if I'm brutally honest, was when I was in the French polishing game with my dad, there was a guy working with us. I think he must have been about 35, and I was 18, and he sounded like he was about 65. Like we never had like masks and things that they had now. And I just remember looking at it going, do I really want to be like that? So I sort of felt there was something more to like to go out and have my own journey, so to speak. And that was it. Yeah, I went off. And I didn't know what that journey was going to be. I went and got a job. And I've done a million of jobs. I mean, I'm pretty sure I probably cleaned the windows of this building. I've done everything from a window cleaner, security guard, not a very good one. And sort of found myself here in the digital marketing world somehow. So, I suppose, how did it come about though? I ended up owning my own business. Eventually, I managed to charm my way into a job of a financial advisor, believe it or not, at the age of 25, 26. This was someone who was awful with money, typical man. And I got into being a financial advisor, and I was giving advice to people who's probably my age now, talking about pensions, life insurance. And I was 24, 25, and as far as I was concerned, pensions were ridiculous. I'm never going to retire. I'm never going to get old. Life insurance, I'm never going to die. I'm invincible. I just didn't believe in it. I think people didn't really believe in me as well. Like, you could almost see people sitting going, come on, son, like, what are you going to tell me about retiring? And I, so it was a bit. But what I quickly identified was mortgages was big. Like, because if you could help someone get their home or buy their dream home, they didn't care how old you was, basically, if you could help them get. So I kind of I've always been one of those people who looked at the next step, if you like, or how can this be better for me? For how can I bring more to people that I work with or deal with? And I thought I identified mortgages. So I come out of financial advice. I went and worked for Barclays Bank again back here in the city, and I've done that for about a year. I thought, I'll be an independent mortgage advisor. And I went off and I did that. I became self-employed through that. And at this point, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just sort of going along, and I was very, very successful at it. But again, I had no plan. I knew nothing about business or being self-employed. I just realised that I didn't pay as much tax, apparently, I was being told. So it was all great as far as I was concerned. And then I ended up just kind of, because I built a good client base, I ended up with this sort of default mortgage broking business, if you like. Me and another guy, and we was doing quite well. And all of a sudden, like, being brutally honest, where I'm from, like, my family was very proud because I was like mid to late 20s and I had my own mortgage brokers, and I was like, where's this come from? I'm completely blagging this. I don't know how I'm getting away with this. But, going back to me nan and my family, they was all sort of, very, very proud. I sort of got that golden boy tag as a result of it. And, it went really, really well. And I just sort of moved out to Chelmsford, moved out from Bethnal Green because my daughter was born, or I had children. It was like, right, you don't want to bring them up around Bethnal Green, because it definitely wasn't as trendy as it is now, put it that way. We moved out, it went well. And then, if I'm honest, I was always doing my own marketing then, but I didn't realise it. Again, I was kind of I've always been a proactive grafter, really. If I'm honest, I'm a grafter. And I was always doing my own marketing, generating our leads for the mortgage brokers. And 2008 come, and like a lot of people, I jumped ship. Regulation got really, really heavy. And to be fair, the mortgages dried up so bad, I just couldn't keep going. So again, the business finished ultimately. I had to go and get a job and I started, but I'd kind of, like I say, I was always doing my own marketing at that point. I mean, it was a lot easier, admittedly, back then. It was a lot cheaper to do some of the paid strategies. But I didn't know if I actually knew what I was doing or whether I just, again, blagged it, which is, I think imposter syndrome's a big thing for me. So I went and worked at an agency. I thought I'll go and get a job and make them sense check my knowledge.
Yeah.
And then I worked at I realised pretty quickly that I actually knew a lot more than some so-called big agencies. And people were stealing a living in the game. And also there was a lot of, bad services being provided to people who were spending good money, So the idea for FSE was born out of that. I decided to break away and start, well, if I'm honest, again, there was no plan to have a business or a company. I just thought, you know what, I can go away here and I can help. I wanted to be a Robin Hood for the little guy. So I felt there was loads of small one-man bands that was getting priced out of good marketing services.
Yep.
And when you looked at it locally, it wasn't difficult to do for them, So I set out to do that. I started working with a handful of local business owners, like real small, like one-man band cleaners and things like that. And I just done it to earn enough money to pay all my bills. Like, I've been through some personal stuff at the time. And before I knew it, you do a good job, you get referred. It grew. Then I had to get someone in to help me out because I'm one of those individuals as well. I'm quite chaotic. So getting clients and working with clients and doing all the exciting stuff is strategy I love. And then ask me to go away and do it. It's like, that's when it's real hard work. It's it's where I fall down massively. So I quickly identified that I needed to get guys that are going to help me do that. And then, fast forward 14 years. I don't know whether that's 13 or 14 years. I've lost track of it now. And there's 14 or 15 of us in the office. An external team of around another 15. So I think there's about 30 in total in the company. And yeah, I don't know how it got there, or there was no plan. There's still no master plan. I've never done a business plan. I don't know what the end goal is. So, and here we are. Yeah, but it's great. I won't change it.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. It's phenomenal because you've kind of changed career and jumped into so many different things. If we go back to that 2008 moment, when you're like, right, okay, the mortgage part, I've grown a business. And I guess once you start growing a business and your family are proud and you're like, I moved out of London and it's just rolling, and then all of a sudden there's a crash. How did you manage that?
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the toughest times that I went through. It impacted things personally as well, like just being brutally open. Like I went through a breakup with my daughter's mum, like, all those, and it all kind of stems from tough times, right? We had it really good. We moved out. I was the first person in my family to own a property. So there was all these things that, like I never intended. I don't wear them like a badge of honour, but I suppose deep down, like my family was proud of me. I was proud of myself because never expected to do anything like that. And then you've got this business and you're doing well, and all of a sudden it's failing, right? And I never planned to have the business, so I never planned to fail. Like I never knew. And it was, and I didn't know how to fail. I was probably at that point, I was early 30s, maybe mid 30s. And one of the big mistakes that I made at that point was, and it's something that I learned from it, was I should have failed quicker. I tried because I didn't want to I thought I was letting family down and letting friends down by admitting that the business hadn't worked out. I kept it going, and I kept it going really, like I felt I financed it through credit cards and things like that. It was all, I suppose, really to keep up an appearance. It was being like, and it wasn't like I'm not materialistic. I've never had flash cars. I don't have a big house, but it was just that I didn't want to turn around to people and go, "Oh, the company's gone. Like, it's failed, or the business has failed." And then so that was really, really hard. That was a tough time. It took me, probably I should have failed it. I should have wrapped it up 6 months, 8 months quicker, because I paid for it for probably 6 years later. Like I still paid for the debt you accumulate in trying to keep something going. And it led down to a breakdown in relationships, things like that. You find yourself, you go from living in a home, family and everything else, and then all of a sudden you've lost your business, you're separated, you're living in a bedsit, you're working for someone, which, I'm a hard worker, I've always been a hard worker, but it's quite a roller coaster, right? You think, I've made it, I've got here, this is, how amazing and lucky am I to hold up, I'm back at the start again.
Yeah.
So, that was really tough. That was a really tough period, but what I've realised looking back was I had a couple of options. I could have come back to Bethnal Green and gone and joined all my old mates and gone back on the rave scene like that sad old geezer. And I thought, you know what, let's just stay and let's focus. Like let's use the energy or whatever it be to do something positive with it. It went from then. I started working. I had a job and I started building the company and using it to motivate me. As opposed to sort of doing the woe me bit. Oh, well, I'm sure I wallowed for a bit. Yeah. But, I still say it now. I do think I'm just that kind of character that if it all went wrong tomorrow, I do believe that I could probably go out of a bucket and a sponge and come back with a day's money. Or I will do. Yeah. But that was, like I say, that was a real tough time. Really tough time.
And hats off to you for thank you for being really open, and hats off to you for then, because it's tough, right? You're kind of like rolling, you're climbing, and you're like, this is fantastic, and then all of a sudden it drops, and everything around you to then pick it back up. It just shows that real resilience and the grit that's needed, right? To just say, right, okay, we've got to start again. Yeah,
and it was hard. So, I literally, I was in a bed, like you couldn't have gone more to rock bottom. In fact, I think I started lower than what I was when I started originally, So, and you go through this stage, but I've had a family, I've bought a home, like all these things you never thought you could do, and then all of a sudden you're literally in a bed sit. And, I remember I was genuinely living on around £10 to £15 a week. I can still remember what my shopping list was, it was frozen chips and it was eggs and it was packs of ham and that was it, and bread. So you do what you did or you do what you've got to do to survive or get through. But I was doing a couple of jobs. I suppose this is where the entrepreneurial thing was. I had a job and my family have always been in property, which is why we have the small family property management company. My mum was actually a property manager for Beresford's, or Bairstow Eves, sorry. It was Bairstow Eves. And she looked after about 3 or 4 properties in and around Essex, or like offices. So what I then started doing was I used to do the end of tenancy cleans for when people vacated. So I would finish work in Whittam at 5 in the afternoon. I used to have to rush all the way to Billericay because they shut the office at 5:30. So it was like literally a mad dash. I would collect the keys for a flat or a property, which would then be, they was all around Lakeside for some reason. So it was quite a journey. Like I was covering a lot of miles. Then go to Lakeside. I used to have I'll never forget, I had a little battered Fiesta that had all my cleaning gear in the back. Get there, I'd just scrub these 2-bed flats or 1-bed flats until I'd finish 1, 2 in the morning. Drive back to Billericay, put the keys through the letterbox of the estate agent, then get home, go to sleep, probably get 4 hours sleep, and then go back to work in the morning. Do you know what I mean? And do that. And to be fair, you know what? I was earning good money out of it because, you know, when you're doing that level of work in a few hours, like, you know, you're kind of grinding when people are sleeping, right? So, and that's what I had to do to be able to pay the bills. Yeah, I was selling stuff on eBay. Like I was like, I had a brother-in-law who ended up with loads of bits and bobs and things. And he used to just give them away, and I was like, I'll get rid of that for you. And I was like, you know, I was doing whatever it took to, in addition to sitting there and writing content and trying to build a digital marketing agency.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, like I say, I just think there was always that energy and that hunger to sort of push on.
I think it's like you say, that hunger, because I think that's what a lot of people lose sight of. And I guess this is a key reason why I wanted to launch this podcast, because I was just tired of everyone making it out like entrepreneurship and running your own business is it's like an overnight success, but also easy.
Yeah.
But it takes a certain person. Not everybody can run their own business, because not everybody can get themselves off from where you've came down, and then you're like to get yourself back up. But the hours that you just said, like you were working, is crazy, right? But you're, you know, shows that you're a grafter, a hard worker, and I bet people listening probably like, I didn't expect to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, there is that side, like you say, people see the end product in all of us, right? Like we're sitting here in a nice studio doing a podcast, like we've all had our journeys, right? And I think it's a worry that I have, and I'm going to sound my age here, but you know, for younger people, like that's one thing with social is we see the success, we don't see the journey so much. And everyone's got a journey, you know, and I think there's very little overnight success out there for people. In fact, I don't think there's any. Like I've always had a bit of a mantra that's been like, there's no shortcut to anywhere worth going, right? You know, it's always going to be a journey. And I think one of the things, I know I've got some great friends and some great characters in my life, but again, like everyone would always have like a brain, like an idea, a brainwave. But it would always be like, for us, we're going to be here and we're going to be there next week. And I'm like, we're not, guys. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not how it is. And I think that's one of the things, I think people look at you and they go, oh, you know, Danny's doing this or Danny's up to that. And, you know, people always think, whether they think you're lucky or whether they think it's all come easy but yeah, like I did 3 jobs. I'd spend my lunch breaks in the post office queuing to post stuff that I'd sold on eBay, and then trying to like grab some food from Greg's or something on the way back to the office and not get over an hour because the company I work for would make me stay on and make the time up, which would mean I then not get the keys to key the property. It was like, it was crazy. I nearly ended up in like doing because I ended up doing so well from that side of it. I nearly started, but again, it got back into the labour side of it. I was like, you know, our bodies, how long can your body keep doing that level of work? So yeah, I thought like I'd try and use my brain a bit more.
So you've got then the agency. So you were working for another agency, and then it came to a point where you were like, right, I can just do it better. And I love the fact that you said that, being the Robin Hood, because you know, I'm in the agency space as well, and I know there's a lot of agencies. There's a lot of great agencies out there,
definitely.
But there's also a lot of agencies that pull the wool over people's eyes and are not doing a great job. And you are seeing people pay good money for something that they're not getting. So it's fast. I like the way that you sort of came in at that angle.
It was interesting for me because I knew nothing about it. Like obviously, I was doing my own digital marketing. But I knew nothing about agency life, and then and it was just so cutthroat, and it was so, and I think it's probably worse back then because I think people are more aware now on what they should be expecting, and you know, I'm talking, this is probably 14 years ago, maybe 15, But it was, and I always joke that I come from such a highly regulated industry of mortgages to then jump. It was like the Wild West in digital marketing. Like it was daylight robbery that was going on. But that's never been my way. And what I actually thought was exactly that. Like someone can go out and do this at a real good price, deliver real value. Because it's like anything, right? If people are being successful, like my best relationships with our clients are our longest standing clients, which sounds obvious, but where they started as a spend perspective with us as an agency and where they are now, like we've got clients who've been with us 12 years, like literally all of our journey. And they're probably spending 15 times what they used to spend when they first started with us. But it's all relative because they've grown significantly. Well, it's been quite nice because we've been on sort of like this same parallel together.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's the bit I love. And I think even now, one thing that I struggle with as an agency owner is I still deal with all our clients, all our new business, all that stuff, which is hard. But I need to make sure that we know what the dream is for the client. I need to make sure that they're realistic goals and objectives, you know, because I think I dabbled for about 6 months in bringing in a business development person, and it was 6 months for the first time we ever had issues with people coming. I was like, oh, you know, I was promised that I was going to get this and I was going to get that, and apparently I was going to go and wash their car for them as well. It was like, because people are motivated by, they're not looking at the client and the journey, you know, they're motivated by obviously their own targets, objectives, you know, they've got a job to do, so I suppose they're trying to do it. So it's an interesting one. Like for me, I get a lot of satisfaction out of working with people and just seeing things work. Like I know a lot of people, and some people are a lot more transactional, and they see that side of it, which is great. You know, we're all, it's horses for courses, we're all different people. Yeah. But for me, like I get a real good feeling out of seeing success of other clients. And that's not even like some sort of you know, wishy-washy way of pretending to be all holistic, but it's true. You know, when I think about my proudest moments, it involves our clients and things like that. So,
and you come across as someone, like, just talking about your past and sort of your upbringing, as somebody that is really important building those relationships, and so taking you away from that whilst you work on other areas of the business, I guess that's where your fuel comes. Yeah,
exactly that. I mean, even go back to the French polishers, like my dad's a character and a true East End character, and he had this business, but he was quite explosive. So a lot of people who used us, like I was 18, 19, he'd go, oh, can you go and deal with them? And I'd be like, why? For me, I felt like a kid. He was like, but people like you, Dan, because, you know, probably 10 minutes ago he was ripping their heads off because they're parked a lorry 5 foot to the left or something, you know. It's the most crazy things you blow up about. So, yeah, I think it kind of comes from, I think probably the most was my family, like typical East End, we're quite a big family, and it was a very social family, so you was always in that environment of interacting with people, and you know a lot. And I think that's one thing. I think having good people skills and things, I think especially agency side as well, like, you know, there's a lot that goes on, and there's a lot that it takes to be successful for a client, and I think not everything works first time. You know, we have to learn, we have to you know, pivot and adjust, and unless you've got that relationship and that rapport where clients can understand that you're on the journey with them, you know, if you're trying to be at a distance and like, well, this is what it is, you know, and here's your stats. It's like, stats don't mean nothing. Like, how close are we to our goal? Like, you know, what's coming out the other end here? You know, I'm spending this with you. You know, what am I making? You know, because everything in between is vanity, right? It means nothing.
Exactly.
So they wouldn't care if their stats had fallen through the floor if they were selling 10 times as much or generating 10 times as much, right? And that's where I try and keep it. You know, and it's hard because as you grow as a company, it's hard to keep that ethos running through the business, you know. But yeah, it's my character, like the way I am as a person. I try and stay true to that because it's the only way I can be. If I pretend to be anything else, it just slips off.
Definitely.
Probably 10 minutes, if that. You know, so.
And so you've got this agency, and you mentioned that you've got 14 people, did you say, in the office, and then 15 externally. How have you found that? Because, you know, managing things on your own is very different to like then growing a team and then managing a number of people's, and everyone's different.
I found it really hard, to be honest with you. Like I say, I genuinely never planned to have an agency. I just planned to carry on doing some freelance work, make enough money, because at that time I was focused on paying the bills for my ex at that point, and making sure my daughter and my family was well looked after, trying to stay away from frozen chips, eggs and ham, because I've done that diet to death. And yeah, just like I say, I'm not materialistic. As long as I've got enough money to live, and like I'm very active, I love sport and things like that. So as long as I can do all that, that's me. I'm happy. So I never planned to, but then as you grow, you end up like you having to bring people in, and like I say, I've never had a business plan. So I find it really hard. If anything, like it's only been in the last year to 18 months I've started to get a bit of a hang of it, and I'm getting better at it. I think it's only in the last few months I feel like I'm really starting to understand it and almost have a plan.
Yeah.
Like, I am actually formulating a plan. It's only took me 14 years, but I've sort of kind of I go, okay, this is where I'm going to go. This is what I want to do. So yeah, I find it hard. I think it's hard to deal because of how I am as a person. Like, when I play football, I play football a few times a week, and I love the social. And I'm pretty much captain of all the teams I play with, and I've always been. But I'm kind of one of those guys who likes to lead, not as in but I just do. I'm maximum effort. So I think I don't like to ask people to do something that I want to do myself or I haven't done myself.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing worse than sitting there and dictating. And I wanted to run my business like that. And I did run my business like that. But what I did was I kind of created this really powerful team when we were small, or smaller, and we was growing, and we was like us and them, and it was like all us, and we're going to take on the world. And it was great. It was a great team, really, really good. We was incredible at the work we was doing. But then what I created was this little culture where we wouldn't let anyone else in. And as we started moving on, which I never planned to, but you get forced to because you get bigger clients, bigger contracts, so we needed to start bringing in. And all of a sudden I realised we had this real closed shop in the company, and it was really hard for new people to come in and feel part of that, You'd almost have to run the gauntlet for 18 months before you was getting accepted, and it's a lot to ask someone to do, I didn't realise it because I started trying to distance myself from the team because I wanted to be everyone's friend, and all of a sudden you realise, okay, I've got to be a boss now because it's harder to have those conversations when you're everyone's friends. So that was a real difficult thing for me. If I was honest, about 2 to 3 years ago, it's probably the time where I fell out of love with the agency. I was really worried about where I was going with it. I was thinking, can I do this anymore? Like, I don't know how to change this culture that I've created, because I thought it was great. And I was like, again, like I say, I'm just not wired that way. I like to like everyone. I like to be friends with everyone. I like it all to be positive. I like to really work hard to get past that and change it. So, yeah, now we've got a really good team. We've worked hard on the culture. I work hard on the culture. I work hard on being honest and open with people. So I used to carry a lot of my gripes with people, like things that would bug me. I think, do you really want to rock the apple cart? And also, if I'm honest, I've probably found it difficult to have those conversations. But once you start learning how to have them and dealing with people, it lifts a massive weight off you, and you feel better for it. And the more you do it, the better you feel. But then I also find the relationships you have with the individuals better because you're clearing the air, right?
100%.
And you can get into almost these prickly standoffs where you think we're not going to have the conversation, so we're avoiding this conflict. But ultimately, you both know there's something there, so you always become like two magnets. You sort of push it away. And then what I've found is that clearing the air and talking about these things and having it out, essentially, has led to much better relationships.
Yeah.
And some of my guys who was there at that time, who are still there, we're stronger than ever, and they're really, really performing. And obviously it helps you choose people when they're coming in again. So it's weird, I've had the company so long now, like I just think of it like I almost think of FSE as having like different versions, because I've had different groups of people throughout. And I think we're on about like V3 or V4. It's only when I look at the salary slip sometimes and you see employee number 46, I go, geez, I can't believe I've employed 46 people.
Yeah.
Right? And then you start going down the line and thinking of all the people that was there at the start. It's interesting. It's challenging as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think that's the interesting part that you said was like about not being someone's friend, right?
Yeah.
Because when you start up a business, it is a little bit of that family feel. You're involved, everybody knows everyone's business, you're all...
Yeah.
But then how do you then, once the business grows, take that step away?
Yeah.
Because you're no longer everybody's friends, because you're going to have tough conversations. So do you think there was any part in that where you were like, did you ever find it hard to call yourself like, the boss, or not necessarily the boss, but the CEO of the company, for example?
Oh, yeah, definitely. At the start, I really, really struggled with that. I never, like, to call yourself the boss, it always felt like a bit of an ego thing, you know, and like you say, you're trying to create this, I wanted us all to be on the same level, you know, and I'm very about that anyway. Like, I hate people feeling, like, even whenever we've took apprentices on and things like that, like, you're not an apprentice. We had an apprentice start once. He was Taylor, a good lad, a funny lad. And he came in the first day, we was like getting him doing something. He sat there after about a week. He was like, I thought I was just going to be emptying the bins and making teas and coffees. And it was like no one's, like, we're all the same. I used to say, even though you're an apprentice or whether you're a manager, at the end of the day, we all sit on the same floor. We're all doing the same job. And that included me. And I suppose now I've had to sort of, for the good of the business and for me as well, I've had to take that step. We go, right, okay, you are the CEO.
Yeah.
You are the founder. You have to, you know, take yourself out of the weeds and everything else. But yeah, it was hard. It was hard to break away from those guys, because also, like you say, you know each other's lives inside out, you know, and then you kind of, you create this bubble that becomes very, very hard to grow.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard to grow, is the truth. But yeah, there was many a time I didn't think I'd get through it. I just thought I didn't have it in me to get through it. And it's been a lot of hard work, but like I say, what I've realised is the more you do these things, the more empowering it is, and the more momentum you gain. I suppose it's like anything.
How do you manage that when you say, I don't know, didn't think I'd get through it? Like, when you really question, can I take, like, you've got the company in a certain culture, how do I take it out of that culture and build into something new?
Yeah, it's a tough one. So like I say, I never, like I say, I never planned on having a business. I wasn't trained. I never, like, my dad had a company or had a business, but he wasn't a business owner. We was just a crazy factory turning out loads of French polish. It was carnage. So I didn't really, know what I was doing. But one thing that I sort of started working on myself a lot more, and I realised that, you know, at that point I was thinking, do I just get out of this? Like, I could probably sell the company, get out. But I looked at it, I was like, I've probably done 10 years of my life here. I don't really want to go and start again. And it was like, if I'm honest, because of how the culture I created, the value of the business wasn't there to make it worth selling. You know, it wasn't, I was the business, and I was like, well, that's pointless, isn't it? So you're going to have to sort of give yourself a kick up the backside of deal with it. So what I started doing was, I worked with a business coach, and I always had this vision of business coaches where, if I want a business coach, I want someone who's been there, done it. Like, you know, I don't want someone who's 5 years younger than me. Because I become that person. Like, when I was a financial advisor, I used to look at me and go, what are you talking about pensions for, son? Like, you know, and I was a bit like, I want someone who's been there. And I got a guy come in, I'll never forget, a guy called Jim, and an older guy, and I started working with him, and it all sort of started there. And Jim was great. He sort of started me on that journey, and I realised you kind of, like everything, you have a lifespan. And I started looking for the right kind of coach, if you like. And what I soon realised was, being around other business owners who had sort of been there, done it, is what helped me shape what I needed to do in the journey I need to go on. And I mean, we met through a group that we're working with, other business owners, entrepreneurs are there. And that was probably the biggest key for me. Like, I've probably been part of that group for around 18 months, and it's probably in that 18 months that I've really started getting my stuff together. And I've probably got some direction and a bit of a goal, you know. So, it's hard. You have to look at yourself, because I think that's another thing as well. It's quite easy to blame everyone and everything, but you're the only one who can change it. Yeah. You know, you're the one, you know, you can only control yourself, your own actions and everything else. You know, how other people react, behave and all that is kind of out of your control. Yeah. So, I worked on myself, and I'll continue to work on myself. And it's kind of, that got me through it, you know. But then what it made me identify was, I love my company. I do love my company. I've always loved my company. And I don't want to sell it, but I have to have it so that who knows what happens. Like, if I needed to, I don't want to be in that situation where I go, well, if I sell it, it's not worth nothing, because I hold all the IP, you know, and I've worked hard on that, and I've got a great company. I've got a great team. I've got a leadership team, which takes a lot of the stress off you. You know, I've got some great you're only as good as your team, right?
Yeah.
That's like for me with sport and everything. You can be Superman, but if your team's not cutting it, then you're never going to really achieve anything. So I think, like I say, just working on yourself and being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And also holding yourself accountable, which is what the group that we go to helps with.
100%. And I think that's great that you've gone through that part where, it's quite easy to fall out of love with your business. And I was even thinking about, like, you fall in and out of love quite a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're able to identify that but turn that around, I think that takes a lot as well, because it's not like, a situation where you're 2008, but it's still a situation where you're kind of like, how did I end up with this on my shoulders?
Yeah.
I'm no longer...
Exactly that. I mean, I think one of the things that happened for me, I was just kind of go into denial. So I went travelling. So I was like, I done what any responsible adult would do. I'd bury my head in the sand and went. I just sod it off. So I sort of hid behind that. I was like, what, I've done 10 years. I've built this. I've earned it. I'm going to go and have lots of like weekends away. I was very fortunate. Like my daughter's my best friend. And my daughter's, she's 25 now, but we went and travelled to Philippines together. We done Indonesia, New Zealand. So, I mean, she was travelling. I was just a sad parent that went and jumped on the back of it because I've got no friends to travel with. But it's incredible to do those things with her. But what I realised was I had probably an 18-month period where I was away a lot. I think it was 1 year. I think I went away around 8-9 times. And then I sort of sat, I was like, what's going on here, Dan? Like, because you're coming back and, how can you expect people to push for your business and work hard when it looks like you're not doing the same? And if I'm honest, I probably wasn't. I was only doing the bare minimum, so to speak, or what I had to do. And I sort of sat down at the end of that year. I was like, okay, it's been a good year. It was a good year. But it's like, where are we going here? What's it really all about? And it was really, I was running away from what the problem was, which was in work and dealing with, that. And the thing was, like I say, I always hold myself, it was all down to me, even like the culture. And it's not necessarily individuals, it was the culture that I created, and it was then I realised it was down to me that if anything was going to change, I was going to have to change it. It's like me, like I do love travel. It's given me a real passion for it, and it is my passion. And I say to people, I haven't been away this year. And people go, well, you was away in June. And I was like, but to me, it feels like a long while. But I'm on this great momentum sort of role at the moment, and because I'm a momentum kind of guy, I'm scared to break it, because I know when I do go and do these things, I just take it all in and I love it so much, and I come back and I'm like, right, where was I? And then you kind of, I'm one of them, I get scared now, so I'm scared to break the role, because what they say, like activity breeds opportunity, right? And I'm being very active, and look, I'm here with you, like doing a podcast. You know, these are all things that, if you're burying your head and you're disappearing, you don't meet, you don't have these opportunities.
No, 100%. And so you mentioned that sort of scared of like almost not stopping, but almost sort of messing with that momentum, right? And I think that's flowing. Are there other things that kind of, because your business is doing really well at the moment, do you ever have any of those moments where you are actually not necessarily questioning yourself, but things are always playing on your mind?
Plenty of those. Yeah, like you say, it's even as I talk about it there, about the momentum thing, it's like I've gone from one extreme to the other. So it's like, where's the balance, right? Because even I know I can't continue at this pace forever. You've got to find that balance. But I am one of those, I suppose I'm always extremes. I'm quite intense about things, and I'm being very intense about the business, but I want to travel. So it's like I need to work on how do I get better. And it's like, even down to personally, I'll play football 4 times a week. I'll do a bit of boxing. I had a token attempt at high rocks, as you know. So I won't go into too much. I've just recovered from that.
Recovered and signed yourself up for another one.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So it's like that. So, but yeah, like I say, for me, it's you look at it and go, okay, so what's the balance here? What do I want personally? And it's like, you can't. Life is about balance, definitely. And I think I'm trying to find that balance and get it right. Because again, everything I seem to do is about exerting myself. I feel like when I'm with work, I work pretty hard. I have a lot going around my head, work all weekend. So it's like, how do I get out of my own head and thinking about work? I do that through football. I go football, but I like to run. I'm sort of, I play midfield, I'm up and down. I'm one of these guys, it's weird, I believe that football players is a good representation of an individual. I've played football for so long, but like you'll meet people on a football pitch, and if they're very passive and they're very like sort of, well, he's just a bit quicker than me and all that, and I'm like, what do you mean he's quicker than you? Get after him, like. But you meet them in life, and they're kind of like that with their life, which is great. We're all different in our own ways, but like I've never met somebody who's quite laid back and chilled and all that, and then they get on the pitch and they're like a million miles an hour. Like, it's strange how that sort of transfers onto a football pitch. And like I'm on a football pitch, I'm up and down, I play in the middle of the park, and unless I come off that pitch where I'm like literally sucking air, it's like how I finish my week. Like if I'm not sucking air, then I feel like I haven't worked hard enough, you know. So that then regulates, but it does get the work out of my head, and it helps me to regulate myself and get myself down. But yeah, like I say, on the other side of it, it's like, well, where's the personal aspect? I'm 50 in February, so it's like, well, what do you want to do? Like, you can't just keep going like a lunatic, either travelling or working. Like, where's the happy medium? You know? So, yeah, when I get the answer, I'd love to share it, but I'm not sure if I'll get it anytime soon.
It's interesting sort of how you say about there's almost that extreme of like, not necessarily burying your head, but like you go travelling because you don't necessarily directly realise, but you're probably hiding from what's going on.
100%.
But then when you are like, I know what's going on, you're like, I'm fully in it, like 110, if not more percent going for it. Yeah,
it's true. It's like I'm not a fan of conflict. No one, well, I say no one, some people, not that they like it, but I'm never comfortable with difficult conversations. I'm more, as I've got older, I've worked on it and I'm better with it. But in life in general, nobody really likes conflict. I like getting on with people. I like liking people. I'm a people's person. I like to think so. So yeah, it's like, I don't like conflicts, but then when you get into conflicts, like you say, it's the other way, you go 110%. So I go for, I don't really want to have that conversation I don't end up having the conversation, I have an explosion. Like there's that little bit of where I see me dad in me, and I'm like, as it's happening, I'm like, oh my God, this is me dad. And it was something that I always wanted to work on, not being as explosive.
Yeah.
But I'm not, it's very, very rare. It takes a lot for me to get, but like you say, it is interesting that I go from either, let's not talk about it. So, right, let's do it then. We're going to do this, Come on, let's lock the door and we'll work it all out, shall we? So, it's interesting actually that you say that. I never really thought of it like that.
You mentioned also imposter syndrome earlier on. I guess that's something that's always sat with you.
Yeah, massively. Even down to playing football. Like I played football at a decent level. Like nothing, like not professional, but like again, my dad was quite a character. I used to play football. I played football in a good teams, and we played like my claim to fame was I played against Beckham. Didn't play very well. They smacked us, and I always remember him because he was this little blonde thing, and he was smashing the ball about 40 yards, and we was just about kicking the ball to that wall, But I played at a good level, but I always even then I had an imposter syndrome as a kid. Like I remember thinking I was only playing because they were scared of my dad because he was such a character, and it was like. Which it wasn't the case, but it has always sort of followed through with life. And even down to the business, like I say, like up until very, very recently, I was always like, I don't know how I've got this, I don't know, I shouldn't be here, whatever. And like I say, I've got a few properties, things like that, like people had never owned an house and now own a few properties, and I never planned to do that. And to be fair, there was never a plan to own. I don't even know I ended up owning 3 properties, to be honest with you, like I rent out. I think that was more through COVID, and it's weird how things go, but imposter syndrome has been something that I've carried with me all through my life, and probably still, well, even now to a degree. I'm kind of starting to accept it a bit, but it's, again, I think it's more on working on myself in the last 18 months and meeting other people like us, entrepreneurs, business owners. And I think one thing that I learned through being around other people is, we all have the same problems. We all have the same thoughts and fears, slightly different, but ultimately like growing staff, cash flow, all those clients, all those great things that keep us awake at night. It's like, okay, it's not just me, I'm not alone here, so I don't know, there's comfort in that, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%. And so, aside from that imposter syndrome, competition, do you ever get kind of distracted by competition around you, or are you quite good at sort of staying in your own lane?
In the business world, like I've got no interest in other agencies or like, don't get me, not as in a negative way, but what I'm saying, I don't hold myself or benchmark myself against other companies or businesses. Because again, it kind of goes back to that social media thing we touched on. Like, we all look great from the outside, right? And what's going in when we're like, and even down to be fair, we're going a bit deep now, but when you go into personal life, right, you see, oh, they're an amazing family, couple, door shuts, and there's like World War III going on, you know? So
exactly.
And that's business, that's life, that's everything, you know? So, like that side of it, I've always sort of had this theory. Like, I suppose where I came from an agent, or worked in an agency for a short while, when I started my agency, there was a bit of a negativity that came from the person that I used to work with. Like, we parted on good terms and everything else, but I suppose there was this, what are you doing? Like, why are you going to go and out one-man bands? And it was almost like sort of laughed about. I was like, well, look, it's fine, it's my decision, I'll go. But then when you start sort of all of a sudden you're popping up on a few people's radars, those people then came back in and had it. And I've always been of the opinion, like, just worry about your own business, and everything else. If you start looking at other people and go, oh, I want to be like, what are they doing? Or, why aren't we like that? I think you ask for trouble and you start making wrong choices. And I think if you focus on being true to yourself, now that's how I've built the company. I won't lie, as we're getting to a stage now where, we're getting sizable, really. We're on a lot of people's radars. I do more so now. I've started to look around and go, well, what are other people doing? Like, are we coming across in the right way and things like that? Because again, I just down to me, like, I have the contacts. So at the end of the day, I'm just an East End boy, worked at a pie and mash shop. I cleaned the windows of the studio at some point in my life, and now I'm sitting here talking to these companies about their marketing strategies, and I always wonder if sometimes people look at it and go, who's this East End white boy, or this poor man Danny Dyer that's sitting here, like, talking to us, or do you need someone who's more corporate, more, sort of speaks better and everything? But you are what you are, right? You can own. And I think for me, it's about being relatable, being open, being honest. And just go for that. So I think that's all you can really do.
100%. And authenticity and being real goes far. Yeah. So much further than a lot of the corporate side of things in any case, because people value that and people buy from people. So the fact that your business is doing well is definitely a testament to the relationships that you're building as well. Yeah,
I think that's the key. And I think this is like, we're in the industry as well, AI and all this stuff, and it's massive. We're obviously embracing it, we're adopting it, we're bringing it in, seeing how it can help our clients and everything else. But bottom line is, people need that. Like, people buy people, and people like that human interaction. We need that. So there's only so far it's ever going to be able to go. Yeah. And I think that will never change.
No, definitely not. And aside from sort of what we've covered off, are there any things that would keep you awake at night?
What are the things that keep me awake? Honestly, one thing that really keeps me awake, which is crazy, but again, because I never planned to have the business, like up until very recently, we're a business that was still running on systems that we was using when I started. It was so, and the business, all our processes and our systems was built on trust, because we had a great team. And then as you grow that team, obviously they don't know how we've done things for 10 years. They're just coming in. So one thing that, genuinely, I can't believe I'm going to say this because it's the least exciting thing in the world, but it's processes that keep me awake, because I know what I've realised now is, as you get bigger, like, the sooner you get processes in place, the easier your life is, right? And for me, it's like, I look at it and I'm like, oh, what's going on with this? And I have to, for every bit of information I've had to delve so deeply to get in, it's because it's just not a process. Yeah. And then retrospectively doing processes, when you've got 15 and then you've got your external people that need a different process, it's hard to do it. Also, for me, that's the thing that kind of keeps me up a lot. Like you say, yes, revenue can hide problems as well. I've been very fortunate that we've always been okay as a business, financially. But then what you realise is, that's great. Just because everything's good in the bank don't mean everything else is good, Yeah. And so the thing for me at the moment that's key is, like, so sad to say, but processes.
But it's fair point though, because, at the end of the day, as you grow and scale, you need those processes in place for it to flow. And
this is the thing, that I've put a leadership thing, and I've got a great leadership team, and I'm like, right, so if I've got the process in place, it can all channel up, and like you say, you can scale so much easier. Yeah. Because it's all there, right? People could come in, the process is clear, the journey is clear, this is what we do, this is how we do it, you know, and then you just put your personality on it, you know, and that's the key. So yeah, like I say, that's the thing that I find really hard, and that's a bit of advice that I give to anyone so is get your processes in place. And I'm not a process guy, like you know, which is probably why we've never really had them in the business, but. Yeah, I think
and why it keeps you awake.
Yeah,
at night.
why it keeps you awake at night.
Exactly.
It's so silly. It's so ridiculous, but it's true.
And it kind of flows nicely to my ultimate question of as we wrap up is like, if you were to go back to that start of your journey, whether it's before you started your agency, mortgage broker, or teenage years, what would be that one piece of advice you'd give Danny?
Yeah, I think it would be actually thinking back to the mortgage business. As much as it was regulation, everything else, there was compliance you had to do, and I never had a process for that either. Funnily enough, shock horror. But yeah, I think one of the advice I would give is probably just back yourself a bit more, be braver. I did what I sort of always had these ideas, and I always but I always almost done them apologetically. You know, I almost owned the business apologetically. It was like. And I'd say this to anyone, it's like, if you've got the idea, like, don't wait for the perfect plan. You just, you know, action will do that. And I suppose that essentially I did do that because I never had a plan, but I sort of knew what I wanted to do. And I almost you had this idea, I knew it would work, but I kind of doubted myself that little bit. And I think, go for it. You know, what have you got to lose? Or, you know, it's, if you believe you're that kind of person that could do it, because again, this is the thing, that it takes a certain individual to do what we do. You know, it's hard. You know, you don't get to just go home and switch off at 5 o'clock, you know, and yeah, it's tough. But my bit of advice would be, just action, really. Do it.
Awesome. Thank you. You've been a fantastic guest. So thank you for sharing your story. But I think just also your story of being, like, as you say, this East London boy and so forth. You've achieved so much, and like you say, your family proud, you being proud. Like, you've gone through those ebbs and flows, but you've just grafted, and where you are today, you should definitely, from an outsider, it's like you have imposters. You know, you doubt yourself because you are, for an outsider looking in, is like you have a successful business, you're very successful where you're at. And I think that's fantastic for people to hear that, is that may seem like what you've got on the exterior, but there's a whole journey that goes on behind that everyone doesn't see. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I appreciate you saying that. It's it's tough. It has been a journey, and like you say, it'll always be there. But I mean, essentially for me, it's been like a counselling session. So thank you.
No, I did warn you at the start. It would be like a therapy session.
You should probably get tissues in here actually for next time. Should I come
definitely.
back?
But thank you for sharing, and thank you everyone for listening today. Love this episode? Don't miss out. Hit subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Instagram as we continue to keep it real.